what advice do you give to women in the space who are looking to just be as successful, to reach that higher high?
Everybody can use the same advice, not just women or not just in technology. We need to understand our natural talent and also the things that you can learn, right? The things that you can learn just by practicing and getting good at it. But also the things that you love doing. You need to love what you do. Otherwise, you might accomplish things, but if you just learn, let's say, how to code or how to do, some data solution or architecting, it will be average and you're not going to enjoy the results as if you really love doing. And that goes for anyone that is in this space because it shows in the work.
Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes.
So tell me, I'm just got my notes down here, an incredible kind of journey in technology, and then obviously, and it wouldn't be fair to have this conversation to not acknowledge that the journey for a woman in technology is not easy, right? So talk to me a little bit about that journey. Take me back to kind of whatever beginning starting point. What was your impetus to get into that space, and talk to us about how you got to where you are today as in the leadership role you're in.
It's a little funny that you want to know how it started because I don't think many people knows about this. But what happened is my career in the Dominican Republic, I actually graduated as a pharmacist. That was my degree. And the main reason was, in Dominican Republic, sometimes you have to pick a career in which you can make a business or make a profit. So it's not more a vocation, it's more like what you can do, right? When I came to the United States, I couldn't validate my career. So I started doing the validation and all those things. And then in the meantime, I took one of those jobs. It was in a check cashing place, buying, cashing checks of people that come, and you make the coffee and you do all the stuff that comes, with that job, which is great. It was my first job in the United States, and I met, very nice people. But then there was one person that came to cash a check, and it was a good amount. And I'm like, what does that person do that make that amount of money? Literally, that was the starting point. So I'm like, imagine, I was making like almost less than minimum wage at the time. So I saw it as, okay, wait, there are other ways. So I asked what he did. He told me he was in technology. So then I asked, how do I get into that? So then he gave me a couple of options, schools to go here and things like that. So what I started doing my programming studies, and while I was doing my validation, so then I did get the validation for pharmacists because I have very good grades. But by the time, and this is something that happened, I fell in love really with technology. So it was one of those things that I didn't have it as, let's say, my dream. Is something that I try it out, and all of this sudden I discover that, oh my God, it's such a good match for my personality, right? I can employ a lot of curiosity. It's very challenging. You don't have 2 days that look the same. And that's how we started really. So, and I know eventually we're going to get into the book, but that's why I'm saying, people sometimes when they say, they don't have, I really don't have a passion, or I don't like the job, or I don't have anything. I wasn't born with something that I wanted to do. But you see, sometimes you don't have to. You just have to try it out. You try one thing, you try another, and you might discover something that you love. So that's what happened with me. So I really love this field. I see it almost, it's not about the ego, but yes, I have to say, it gives me a little bit of ego, because when I get something very complex, and you can figure it out, it's like, and you get so happy to be able to accomplish that. Another thing that I find very rewarding is I love to solve problems. I really do. I do. And I don't know, I see the images coming in my head. I see different solutions. And when I see something like, and that's why I always wanted, like in my jobs, like, oh, can I like listen to clients? Like, I don't want to hear it from third people because they already analyze what they thought they heard. I want to really listen. So like that, I don't know, it's very rewarding to have a company or someone that wants to resolve something, and then here you are, you can come and resolve that for them. I feel that it's very gratifying.
That's awesome. So when you think back on that incredible journey that you just described, take me to a milestone that you feel was incredibly formative in your career. Like, was there a moment where you felt like I made it, or this was it? This was pivotal. Take me to like a critical milestone that would be an interesting story.
I always think we are in the journey. So there is never, there is just ups and downs in everything that we do. Sure. And everything passes. So I don't get attached to anything in the sense of, I don't think any low is the lowest and I don't think any high is the highest, because you can always break those, right? You can always go higher. You can always like continue going lower. I don't believe that people can really get rock bottom unless, let's say, we're dead. So anyway, there is those deeper places to get to. So, in terms of, I don't know, I think I always think positive and I try to see the best in people. I have that tendency. It's just by nature. I have that tendency. So I know there were situations like, like when I said in one of those big meetings, introducing myself, and I said, oh, I come from the Dominican Republic. So I'm very like, and I'm like, oh, yes, I'm Rosa Lopez, and I'm coming from the Dominican Republic. And somebody just says from the crowd, oh, drug dealers. So, I was like, it was a moment of, I just thought, I actually didn't take it bad, I have to say. But I thought like, oh, there is ignorance in this world. But Miguel, I have to tell you, I really don't. I don't pay attention to those things. So I'm not saying that it's about living or, giving a blind eye to reality. It's not like that. I'm very conscious of reality and aware of reality. I think everybody should be. But it's more like, what do we do with what we have to make the better, right? So to make the better to whatever happens, I truly believe that is good in everyone. So I don't see any situation really that had happened. I think for most part, and this happened a lot in the technology field, and I will get back to, being a woman, especially if you have kids. When I have kids, I felt conflicted at some point, not right away, because I used to be so, not because anybody was putting stress on me. It was more because I was on my personality. So I was working over like a lot of hours and very intense. I used to come home late at night, and I got a little bit into a loop that I didn't recognize right away. And what I started feeling was like just bad with myself. But I couldn't put it together right away. I was just feeling drained. I was feeling that I wasn't like as happy. I started feeling questioning my career, if it was worth it. During that time, I thought my career was the problem 100%. So I decided to change career. Thank God that it didn't happen. That's why I always said you have to be happy for the ungranted wishes, because, sometimes you don't know. But at the moment, that's what I thought. I was so frustrated. And then seeing my little kids, that I thought, now I'm not being a good mother because I cannot give them the time that they need. And I was putting it on other people. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's the company. It's the manager of this, I've always been working with different companies at the time, clients. Oh, is this person maybe not managing the client correctly, or the account? And it's this. So I was putting everything always outside, right? Like that was the responsibility, until I understood that I was giving the power to the wrong place. Because when we do that, then what happens is we feel we cannot make a choice. We don't have decision. And that's the problem. And I see that's why also a lot of people, and I still, like when I talk like to my team or to anyone in this field, I always said, we are in control of our life. You work for a company And hopefully it's a win-win situation between you and that company, insurance company or any other company. But if it is not, yes, try to be the change that you would like. That's fine. But if that doesn't work, we're always in charge. We're always in charge of our life. So, I always say, keep learning. Don't stop learning. Keep, bringing and sharpening those skills. And then you're always going to have a lot of people, a lot of companies that would love to have someone like you.
There's something you said that I'd never heard before. And it's striking. And I'm going to have to sit and think about this for a little bit. But that, your low is never your lowest and your high is never your highest. I'd never really thought about that. And imagine all of the people, myself included, who have these anchor points that are artificial. They're artificially self-imposed. Mm-hmm. And that could be good and bad, right? In terms of, holy cow, this horrible time that I'm going through, it actually can and probably will get worse in some other point in my life. Mm-hmm. Let me be thankful for where I am. This highest point, well, let me give thanks for where I am, but you know what? I can go further. I mean, I'd never really thought of it that way. That is an absolute fantastic piece. And the other one that you also talked about, and I kind of wrote it down in my own words, but when you start blaming other people, you're putting the power in the wrong place.
Yes.
You're giving people power they don't deserve, as opposed to saying, I have control. I love this, Rosa. You've already inspired me. We're 15 minutes in and forget it. I feel like I've got advice for life. It's amazing. You touched a little bit, Rosa, on just some of the challenges that obviously you see, if not for yourself, but you see other women face in the workforce. You have mastered a career not only in technology, but in a data space as well. And in my career in insurance, first off, that you don't run into an awful lot of women just in general, especially not in leadership positions. Now if you start layering on technology, you notch some down from there, and then you layer on data on top of that. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about what you have at least observed and seen from that perspective, and what advice do you give to women in the space who are looking to just be as successful, to reach that higher high? What advice do you give to them as you think about how you've lived your career?
I would say it's the same advice that I give to anyone. And the reason is, I see everybody can use the same advice, not just women or not just in technology. Okay. And I think everything starts by recognizing, we need to understand our natural talent and also the things that you can learn, right? The things that you can learn just by practicing and getting good at it. But also the things that you love doing. And I think in this field especially, you need to love what you do. Otherwise, you might accomplish things, but if you just learn, let's say, how to code or how to do, some data solution or architecting, it will be average, and you're not going to enjoy the results as if you really love doing. And that goes for anyone that is in this space, because it shows in the work. I see it when I do, let's say, sometimes code reviews, or when I go to, let's say, someone, I just look at their system. I like to do that sometimes. Just look at their system and just look at the data. And I don't need any input about the business. I don't need any input on how the database connect, the tables connect. I just like to take a look and I can figure it out, right? So that is something that I enjoy doing it. And it is good because I think it also comes, like, some people, they have this flow with the logic. Some others might be more like, let's say, calculator, like they can follow step-by-step approach, and they're very good at it. Right. So, and I think technology actually have a space for both. You have for ones that, is more efficient in this way, and then you have another one in which is more efficient in this way. So I think the combination is, you need to I really don't think you can be great in these fields if you don't like it. Like, let's say, even if you don't love it, you at least have to like it. And I would say like it, because, and I've seen many people in this field that they really hate what they do. They hate it. They do it for the money. And they're thinking that, they're just going to do it for a certain time and then leave. So, anyone is free to do whatever they want. I don't think that we should spend our life doing something that we don't like. So, that's a lot of hours a day. And it's a lot of things that if you have to be thinking negative things and stuff that you don't like, it will go to the rest of your life. You will go to your personal life, to your kids, to your spouse. It's just going to reflect. So I will say this field is great for someone that have a curious mind, that likes to continuous learning, right? It's very difficult to be in this space if you learn one thing and that's it. You think it's going to be forever. So I think it's very important to have an open mind. Every time something new comes, just accept it and embrace this new technology, because technology, especially now, is changing so much. It's fascinating how it's going. It's fascinating to me. It's like, I can wait to see what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So, I think in this field also, you need not to be resistant to those changes and just learn something today, knowing that most likely, 6 months, a year, you might have to change it and learn something else. And that to me is how you can enjoy being in this field.
You remind me of something that I've actually tried to use quite a bit in my life, and something I actually teach in business school. It's called the hedgehog principle. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's out of Jim Collins' Good to Great. And he says, if you're going to do anything in life, it has to meet 3 tests, and all 3. You can't just 2 out of the 3, 1 out of the 3, all 3. The first one is you obviously have to be able to make money at it, right?
Yes.
You have to be able to be at close to, if not the best in the world at what it is that you do. And inherent in that, you have to be passionate about it. You have to love it. And all those 3 things must be true. And as you were talking through, one of the things I thought about, as I think about all of the folks that I've met in my career, I haven't met a whole ton of people that will actually legitimately and honestly tell you that they love and they're passionate at what they do. Right?
Yes.
There's not a lot out there. Very few of us say, man, I love waking up there. And so to your point, if you can be passionate, man, you can beat anything.
Yes. And also, I'm going to go back to those 3 points because I don't agree 100% with one of them. And let me explain why. And before that, about passion, I have to tell you, I dream about sometimes the data and what I'm going to do if I'm missing something. And it's so yes, you have to really, or people at work, just like we're talking about something that we're talking. So anyway, it gets to that point. So yes. Now, from the 3 points that you mentioned before, the second one, that you have to be the best or closer to the best person, I don't agree with that, because competing with other people is always going to give you a sense like you are not worth enough. So I don't think that should be the point. The point is, if you like what you're doing, if you're passionate what you're doing, you compete with yourself. So yesterday you were this person, today you work a little harder to maybe achieve something from yourself. At the end of the day, what other people think about who's the best, and now that you're trying to achieve the best, who cares? Like when you're asleep, when you are in front of the mirror in your house, does that matter really to you? No. It's going to matter how you feel like inside, like, oh my God, I feel good. I'm good with my life. I like what I'm doing. I'm good with what I'm pursuing. I'm becoming myself. So I always think the competition, like in the zero-sum game of you, should always be with ourselves.
Love that. Thank you so much for that reframing. That is fantastic. And I've got to give that a lot of thought. And I'm going to send a note to Jim Collins, who wrote that book. I'm going to let him know how it is that you feel about that principle. I love that. But you just mentioned zero-sum game of you, Rosa. You're a mom. You're a wife. You're an IT data professional. And now you're an author. Put all of that together. That's a lot of things. So tell me, what inspires such a high performing person to add that extra thing? Talk to me about the inspiration for this book. What drove you to do it? And then I'm going to ask you about the process, but start with the why. Why write this book?
Believe it or not, this was not a dream. So you see how people say, oh, you have to know your dreams and then work towards. I always say you have to trust sometimes the process. And if you believe in God, universe, whatever you believe, trust the process. So I never thought about writing a book. Why? Because I'm very good in programming and writing computer programs, but no English. English is my second language. Not only that, I never really wanted, I never had interest in learning English. Like I felt, you see, I like to learn new stuff. And the thing is, when I was trying to learn English, I thought, what waste of time. I mean, in my head, because I wasn't learning new data. I mean, that is something that I will change looking back, and I will now understand how important it was to be able to communicate your ideas. I see the value of that. So that is one thing, let's say, I will give to my younger self. Like, yes, communication is so important. But I'm just saying at the time, I wanted to be learning actually, like new knowledge. So, there is one thing, I come from very humble origins, like many of us. And I always felt very bad, for a lot of people when they're suffering, especially because of financial situations, right? They don't have enough to give to the kids, especially when you become parent. You can just imagine what could feel not to be able to feed your kids, right? Like, let's say my kids has a lot better position, let's say, than my mother had. So, and then how others had. So I always had that in my mind. I tried to open a nonprofit twice, trying to start in the Dominican Republic. And my idea was that I wanted to, I saw people like, it's so hot over there, even a family member. And I'm like, oh my God, how nice would it be if, let's say, I could buy an AC from United States and just deliver it to this person, right? So that gives me like, oh my God, so like that, people don't have to send the money. They can just send whatever they need. So I was trying to do that, everything to stay from the Dominican Republic in the Dominican Republic. That was in my head. So in 2019, I started all the process and everything. I sold like 2 properties. I had some cash. So I started some, to do that. But then towards the end, the lawyer said, well, you're going to need like 20,000 just for show that this is no money laundering every year. And I'm like, I'm making no money with this. And I had to pay 20,000 just because of money laundering. But, he explained that supposedly that's a lot of people do that. They create this nonprofit. Sure. And anyway, so unfortunately, because of that, then, you affect this. During that time, I went through, introspection. And I believe in a higher power, maybe not a God like the Catholic belief, but this higher power that I think we are all part of. And I felt kind of angry in a way. And I remember, I have tears. I went through this really just let me be normal because, I want to go and be able to eat a steak and not feel bad about the people that cannot eat today. Right. So I just want to be normal. If you are not going to let me do this, then let me be normal then. And that was it. It happened a couple of time. So like in 2 months, I would say 2.5 months, less than 3 months, I was just analyzing, just thinking on my hand. I'm like, what really make people successful? And me seeing so many that were maybe like me before and how their life has turned out and just seeing like, what is that difference? And it literally came to my head. It's a zero-sum game. And then the idea was, is the result, we are the outcome of basically the thoughts, emotion, and action that we're taking every day. And from that cycle, it's like we all have, let's say, that leader and that part that is laid back in us. So it's a battle every day. So, maybe you want to lose weight and you're like, you have that part, I'm going to get up and go to the gym in the morning. And yes. And then the other part, when the alarm rings in the morning, you have the other part of you that is like, oh, but my bed is so good, right? I really don't want to get up. I'll do it tomorrow. So that's a simple one, but you see right there, a part of you is winning. And every time that part of you wins, it gets stronger. So that's why the more one side, so it's like the part of you that wins the most is going to continue getting more ammunition, let's say, to be ready for that next battle. And every day, that's what we do, the way that we build our relationship, the way that we are with our kids, with the spouse, in business. So it's always a zero-sum game, right? When someone does something and we react because we're human, but, who wins? So it's always, so anyway, that's what I understood, that it was a zero-sum game. And I started writing. I felt this urge to write. And when I was writing, sometimes I went through those, I get dreams. Sometimes I get into dreaming, dreaming stuff. And I will used to get sometimes goosebumps. So I really thought at the time, like, oh my God, I have to write this book. I didn't put it together right away. But like a year after, I was done with my manuscript. And I said, oh, I'm going to donate 60% to create these training programs for young adults. I mean, to this day, I donate 100%. I don't get anything from it. I even started like a online print-on-demand store, and I also donate all those things. And I have 3 programs running in Uganda: tailoring, carpentry, and hair and beauty. And I'm hoping, that at some point, hopefully soon, I could open those in the Dominican Republic and other countries. So let's see. I'm trying. That's the objective. That's the main why behind it.
What you're just got done describing, interestingly enough, to me sounds like a lot like toward the end of your book, you talk about karma. And, in terms of, giving into the world, and then, the world shall give back. Without jumping all the way to the end of the book, give me, the high level Cliff Notes. I don't even know if anybody knows what Cliff Notes are anymore. I think that might be an old generational thing, but give me the high level view of the zero sum game. What's your pitch in terms of, and by the way, as I was reading your book, I'm thinking to myself, this is a great book for someone just coming into their careers, just coming out of college. I mean, it's good for anybody of any age, but to start off right, it'd be a lot easier to take a lot of the lessons that you are teaching in your book to start off right, rather than having to reform. But give me the pitch, if you will, for your book, and what zero sum game of view is supposed to really try to impart upon its readers.
I think as overall is to empower the reader to really understand that they are in control of their life. I see us as co-creator, right? There are things that I believe are meant to happen to us no matter what, right? I think that some things are going to happen. But for most part, relationship, your business, your, the success that you have, how the outcome that you have today is really a result of how you have managed your thoughts, your emotion, and your actions. So it's a lot about accountability, but also learning. I think the book has a lot of, and, I got this feedback that told me, why you didn't put more of you in the book? Why there are no more stories? People want to know more about you. And I'm like, well, I did that on purpose. I didn't think it was a story about me. I wanted to basically show tips that I practice, that I saw the benefit, and that could benefit them, right? So also, because I'm very conscious of time, I don't like to waste people's time. So I don't want to put writing a lot of stuff if it's not going to have the value. So anyway, it's like, I think it's to empower, to really give the tools and empower someone to make the decision. So I'm sure in the book, that, the book doesn't tell you that what we do is right or wrong. Don't care about that. It's just telling you, this is your game. You play for whatever reason you want it, right? But at the end, it's the awareness when you are making the decision. Because I said, in order to win the game, is to accomplish that target without regrets. And then that's what happened. Because I think anybody can accomplish anything if you really focus on it. But if you understand the price that you are paying for it, by the time you realize it might be a little late. And then, history cannot be rewritten. So I went a lot of sentences to explain about the book.
No, makes good sense.
In one line, it's really accountability, but also I want to understand, because it takes you to that introspection to really know who you are. What will be that success for you? I always talk about defining success on your own terms. It's not what the media says. It's not what you read at school. It's what makes you feel happy and self-fulfilled. Self-fulfillment means that you're really content. It's not that you're like, like always thinking like happy and laughing. No. That is not. Self-fulfillment means that you really feel content with who you are, where you are, that if you needed to do it again, you will do it the same way because you're satisfied of the way that you've been. Right? Getting to that stage.
There's something fascinating that comes through, and you talk about this in the book. And it's an amazing skill that I see very few people master, and that's that self-awareness concept, right? And it's that self-awareness of first off, quite easily and quite basically, how you're portraying yourself out in the world, the words you use, the way you act, the way you interact with people, your relationships, but then also too, that self-awareness of what really is going to provide self-fulfillment. And so few people, and I'm still on my journey, by the way, but so few people really truly understand what self-fulfillment, or if you put it in Maslow's hierarchy, if you like, self-actualization, what does that actually mean? And
Yes.
so, if you wouldn't mind, just, tip your hand a little bit in terms of some of the content that you've offered about ways in which people can truly be self-aware. What are some tips that you would offer our audience around, being a truly self-aware individual?
Yes. So I will say you need to quiet your mind. I will say that is one of the first steps, because you see, you cannot become self-aware too much if your mind is always talking. Because then what you are saying is repeating maybe whatever is happening towards your day. So you're just repeating it.
Yeah.
So you have to get to a point where you can master that blanking of your mind. And one good practice, I think, for anyone that hasn't done it, that you want to start, is in the morning when you wake up. When we wake up, our conscious and subconscious mind, they're very connected, right? That's when, sometimes you can have vivid dreams, or sometimes you can have, just idea coming up. But during that stage, if you try to be able to, let's say, meditate, but like a meditation that makes sense. There is a meditation called meta meditation. There is one that calls 478. They're both really good. I like them. So the 478 is for someone that, let's say, cannot keep the mind quiet. Like someone that you try to do a little meditation, but right away you get out of and you're thinking a bunch of stuff. So to start that, you start breathing by 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you hold it for 7. And then you breathe out by 8, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, right? What that does is that, the person has to be concentrated in the counts. And because of that, it forces the mind to be blank. So that's going to give you some physical, let's say, benefit, right? People hear about meditation. But what that does, eventually it's going to train your mind that eventually you can do it the blank without the counting. So before you go to a meeting, let's say if you're having an argument with, a loved one, or someone wants to argue or whatever, if you blank your mind really in that perspective for a couple of minutes, you're not going to see a big deal really of anything, because it's almost like if you take yourself out and you see it from a movie, like if you were writing a movie and you're seeing the movie,
sure.
And then it's a lot easier to react or to say, oh, what should that actor do in that role that is playing?
Right.
So it takes all the emotion out of it if you can see yourself that way. So the more we can quiet our mind, then the more you're going to start noticing stuff within you. Basically, you're going to start knowing more about yourself, the stuff that you like, maybe to start finding purpose, because that's a journey that no one can tell us, right? No one can tell us and say, oh, you're going to be good do this or do that. It doesn't matter. You see, some people can become, let's say, rich, and someone might say, oh my God, so evil. It's taking all the money because that's maybe that person learned that way. But no, that person has to follow, and if they're following whatever that is that makes that self-fulfillment, they have to follow that. I always suggest that it's good to help someone how you can. And even when people haven't done it in the past, I always say, give it a try, because and some people have reached out to me, they feel no purpose, right? And they can have a lot of money, they can go to all these places traveling, but they feel they have no purpose. And I say, when you give out, even an old person is trying to cross the street and you help them with the groceries, to cut them, little things like that. When you have a human interaction, it's not just send money to someone that you are not seeing. I mean, that's good too, but I'm just saying, have the human interaction with someone, and that might start sparking things in you. So at the end of the day, it's just so you can get the messages better from your soul or from your inner being, and that's how, we get to that self-awareness awareness of making the decision to win this game according to our own terms. Because let's say our being, our soul, what we need, that's something that, only the person can discover it.
I love that. You use the word game, and that's kind of the next question that I have on my list here. I'd never really thought about really thinking about life as a game. And when you think about, it's actually simplifies the concept of life, in that any game, if you're playing baseball, the objective is to hit the ball and then run all the way around and get to home plate.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about tennis or whatever, every game has an objective and it has rules and it has all these
Mm-hmm.
concepts around it. And you are encouraging really folks when you to think about this really as a game in terms of what are the objectives. So expand a little bit about that on for us, because I think that's a key component, and it speaks to me in such a way that it keeps me from meandering. It keeps me from thinking about living in terms of this game that I'm playing. And it also too takes a little bit of the seriousness out of it a little bit too, if I think about it enough, right?
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
so talk a little bit more about this concept of treating life as a game.
Yeah. So you see, when you like baseball, what is your favorite sport?
I do. Yeah. Baseball is my favorite sport.
Yeah. So let's say baseball, you're watching a game and you're seeing someone that is doing like a move, and you're telling them, but why is doing that person, right? Like, 100% how that player should do that play. And you get so upset when the player doesn't do the play, how you thought, right? So that is part of living it as a game, because if we see as a game our life, then we take those emotions. You see, for the player that is within the game, he has all the emotions going on through his head. He can know, he might be reacting to something, but the spectator is not. The spectator can see everything very clear, right? Like what should be done, you can see all the moves. So that's what I see when we see our life as a spectator. It can eliminate that judging, all this stuff that comes from emotion, and just let you figure out answers that will be more, not logical, but also like with the heart, instead of, right? I'm missing the right word for this, but basically seeing the life as a spectator. So like that, your decision and your awareness is going to be also like, even like I go back to arguing in couples. It happens so often. If you really can take yourself out of the argument, let's say arguing, and just like put yourself out, and then you see the argument, like imagine some cartoons they are fighting, right? Instead of you and the other person. If you just see them as a cartoon, you're even going to laugh about it, because that's really what it is. So it helps us to make decisions when you need to make decisions. It's almost like to win your battles. Not everything needs a fight. Not everything, pick your battles, and then you put all your strength, all your, resources that you have into that battle that you want to win.
So let me close with a final question, and this one's going to be a little bit self-serving. I am an aspiring author. And I reading your book, I was mesmerized. It's incredibly well researched. You reference a lot of philosophers, and you've got frameworks that you've taken obviously a lot of time to design. Yes. What advice do you have for an aspiring author? Because I do feel like that's something that I want to be able to do. How would you coach me in terms of some first immediate steps that I can think about, kind of putting my thoughts to paper as you have?
I think everybody has a story, right? So if you want to do it, like that's the first step. And I will say, don't do it for the reader in a sense, do it like for you. Things that, let's say, you feel you were enjoying delivering the message, and follow really, like there is a lot of techniques that people have about writing, but it will become almost as AI, right? If you follow all these techniques to the T, you're just going to sound like everyone else that are following the same techniques, right? So I always say it's good to learn so you know what is out there. But at the end, the authenticity is what's going to make the difference. The authenticity of that, or whatever it is that you want to write. And then based on that, there are different. So when I was looking like for a publisher, I have my manuscript almost done. I literally wrote the whole manuscript done. So I would suggest sometimes to have a lot of it done, even if it's wrong, doesn't have to be right. Then they help you edit it, and they'll help you like if you have things redundancy. So they will help you with that work. But I feel like if you start too early in the process, then some of the part of you will be left out, because now you're going to start following some stuff. So I really think you have to work on your story without thinking like, just write. Take a habit every day in the morning or whatever you feel creative. Take a pen with you or a phone. Like if you get an idea when you're driving, just put, a little title and send it to you because you will forget. And I sleep sometimes with a note by my bed. If in the middle of the night you wake up with something, you can write it down. Of course, the next day, because I'm writing half asleep, I can barely understand what I wrote. But you hear my point, is to keep those notes. And then, you always have choices to go. I mean, that is the traditional publisher. If you're looking for fame, it's more like that because the thing is they own a lot of your books. So I was talking to both, like a hybrid, they call it, and traditional. But, in the traditional, they can change your book title and you have to wait longer. And also you really make really no money. I mean, you're not going to make much money no matter what, because it's basically maybe $1 or something like that. So, but still, that's instead of 10 cents, right? Or 20 cents. So, so those are the things to consider. In one, you pay up front. In the other one, you pay later on or as it goes. And I can give you more details. I know different people in the different places. When you have, I can put you the contact and then you can decide from there. But for anyone that is trying to be an author or trying to write, I would just suggest, just write and write it. I mean, don't use ChatGPT for your ideas. ChatGPT or all these AI, they have their own place. Sometimes I can use it to make something that you already wrote. You already wrote it. You have all your meat, let's say, and, you need to check the grammar or maybe have a little bit more, different. But don't use it to say that you wrote something, because you know what? It's going to be something from the internet. Remember, AI only have the information that has been written, that is there. So it will affect also the way you think. So I would just say, do the little 10 minutes meditation in the morning, and just set an intention that you're going to have these creative thoughts about this writing that you want to do. Start there. And maybe the first day you're not going to write that much, but it's going to become a habit. And then every day, once it becomes a habit in the morning, you will wake up with, oops, I have the inspiration. Once you start writing, you just have to, keep every time that you feel inspired and just write. And write anything that you want. That's what I would say. And don't be judging. Don't judge yourself when you're writing. Don't judge your grammar. Don't try to correct your grammar either. Just write. However it comes, just write. For that work, there are great editors that they will take care of that. Because if not, you will lose your idea and your creativity trying to, write it correctly. Don't worry about that.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that advice.
I just want to thank you again, Miguel. I mean, if anybody wants to know about the book, rosaantonini.com, that's my website. You can see more stuff there. But Miguel, thank you so much for sharing your microphone with me. It's so important because, that's one of the things, the challenge for first-time author. It's a lot out there and, nobody. So sometimes when you get the voice, anyway, I really appreciate it to be able to share the message. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.